Hello, hello to 2024 and to each one of you. Larry Smith, Brad Sturdy, Mike Kegley. We've got Tony Cordero producing for us, Josh Ewing on audio. Everyone hoping you had a great, healthy, and safe holiday season. Guys, holidays, good for you. Everything, Santa brought you everything you wanted?
Yes, Santa brought me a lot of bills. That's what happens every Christmas. I get a lot of bills. I don't know
Well,
how
I
that
sent my
works.
bills to you. I'm glad you got them.
Appreciate that. Well, thanks, Santa. You kind of got a white beard there. You could maybe
Yeah,
be Santa.
we got the white beard going, and I'm the last man standing in the household who doesn't have COVID. So, woohoo!
All the elves have COVID down there.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah, the elves are down.
Yeah. So Brad, sanitize those envelopes, those bills you got.
Yeah.
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 I'll sanitize them.
Yeah, sanitize them. Exactly. That's right. That's right. So he's mad you didn't put out the whole box of cookies and the whole gallon of milk for him. That's why he gave them to you. Big Sports Radio. We've got lots on the way. Eric Richards, he's the national recruiting director for the All-American Bowl. It's on NBC. That it's coming up Saturday. It's one of those really fun All-American games, and look forward to getting his insights in terms of how things have changed with this game over the past couple of decades. New sponsor, obviously, in recent years for them with NBC buying it, but we look forward to talking to Eric here in a few moments. We'll talk a little bowl recap as well, but fellas, let's talk about the bowl situation. College football semifinals, it gets no better than this. Michigan coming through, so many questions about the Wolverines with their coach being suspended for half the season. They had NCAA crawling on campus, the FBI crawling on campus. They got coaches all during 2023 being investigated and fired. And yet here they are without the help of any advantage of stealing signs, if you will. They go right out and beat the team for the past decade in college basketball and in college football in Alabama.
Yeah, it was really good. They also, one thing that's kind of got glossed over is they lost their best interior offensive lineman too. And so they're playing with a backup there, and they just really, they did a great job. They got to that fourth quarter and the overtime, and they made the plays they had to make. And that's how you win those games. We've seen Alabama do that multiple times over the years, whether it was the Tua pass on fourth from the 25-yard touchdown or whatever it was in the playoff. We've seen those guys make plays. This time it was J.J. McCarthy. It was, who made the plays, Blake Corum, whatever. And those Michigan guys just got it done.
And if you follow recruiting, the Michigan and Washington teams were much less highly recruited if you look at their star ratings than the teams they beat. And that's not a normal thing. It's usually, Alabama and Georgia, the number one or number two team against, in terms of that versus Ohio State, and these teams are not in the top five in recruiting rankings. And yet there they are fielding teams that are going to the title. It makes for quite a different mix than what we've seen.
Don't you think some of that? Look at Michael Penix, though. Probably the best football player on the field. He's a portal guy, right? So that's where Washington was able to make hay, I think, and compete there. And the other thing about those teams is they're old, right? You got veteran guys. Michigan is old. Came through this last year. And I think that mattered down the stretch because Alabama is still, I know this sounds crazy, Alabama's pretty young overall. They have a pretty young team for a team that made the college football playoff. And so this is Michigan took advantage of that veteran situation. I think Washington had their quarterback, and he's the best player on the field. Whether he's running or throwing, just fantastic.
Well, it's amazing with Alabama, with all the great coaching and everything they got, they really couldn't reliably snap the ball. And the other part is once you were beyond 3rd and 7, you really weren't certain that they could get a first down because of the up and down nature of Milroe at quarterback. And for arguably the greatest head coach in the history of college football, it was kind of a strange place for that team to be.
Yeah. Michigan couldn't make an extra point and couldn't kick a field goal. So it was a weird game. I mean, you think about how it turned out.
And nobody could field punts in either game.
Punts were. It looked like they were trying to catch knuckleballs, didn't it? Like it was like Phil Necro's out there throwing punts at him.
Exactly.
Or hey, get the blind guy back there; he'll field it.
So Michigan taking on Washington, the last two undefeated teams standing, and so that part feels right. 1 versus 2. We'll talk more about that game here coming up. Love what the Huskies have done, and what a great story out there in Seattle. 2 teams that will be conference mates next year in 2024 as the Big Ten expands to 12 teams. How about this for the college football playoff, guys? The 4-team playoff ends, the 4-team format ends the way it began, with no SEC team in the championship game. That was the last time, 2015, the last time the game was played without an SEC team in it, and that's when Ohio State beat Oregon 42-20. It's pretty amazing right now. Do we dare say the field has been leveled, or do we take anything away at all other than just it was an anomaly and the SEC is out?
Well, I think they kind of, I guess you could say they cannibalized themselves when Alabama beat Georgia. Because I'm going to say this outright. I think Georgia would have won the college football playoff. I think they were the best team. I think they would have won if they'd have beat Alabama, but they couldn't beat Alabama, so they couldn't get in. And I think that's where, they cannibalized themselves a little bit by losing in this situation, by having that championship game of the SEC. And so, yeah, you made a lot of money, but may have cost yourself a national title.
Well, you almost wonder as well with Michigan and Washington, there hasn't been a game that's been under a 15-point victory since Alabama 26-23 over Georgia in 2018. Are we going to see another blowout this year, which to me seems more likely if there's a blowout that Washington just gets out and Michigan can't keep up with them? But are we going to see a competitive game, or is it going to be, because there's a high bar that was set by those 2 semifinal games?
I think it's going to be competitive. I think Michigan and Washington are both too good for that not to be competitive. Washington has such an explosive offense. Penix has had success against Michigan when he was in Indiana a few years back. They actually beat Michigan. It was like 38-21 or something like that. They beat them pretty good, back in 2020. I think it'll be competitive. The one thing is, I don't think either team can do enough to pull away, because I think Michigan's got a good enough defense. They'll control the clock enough to keep Penix off the field. And that's something that, Texas couldn't do.
Yeah, I worry for Michigan if they do get down a couple touchdowns and then they can't grind the clock as much. Boy, that puts them in an interesting place, because Penix was making, sometimes it's hard to believe he's the 3rd ranked quarterback with some of the throws he made Monday night.
Just fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, he's outstanding. I mean, and I did see one pundit actually say that, okay, as you're talking about quarterbacks to take high in the draft, why are you looking past this guy? And we know the NFL, they will look past guys who, for whatever reason, they don't deem as sexy as a pick as somebody else. And Patrick Mahomes is one of those guys, Mr. $500 million contract and rings and everything else on his hand. He's put the Chiefs back on the map and he was picked 7th overall, right? So who knows what's going to happen. Number 1 versus number 2. First time that's happened since 2019, when number 1 Alabama fell to number 2 Clemson and Trevor Lawrence's freshman year. And so we now look forward to Monday night in Houston. More on this game coming up. Big matchup in the Big Ten, meanwhile. Top 10 matchup, one that's been on our calendars for a while, and now it comes to fruition. Purdue, number 1, hosting 9th-ranked Illinois. The Illini coming in, obviously, they're the underdogs. I mean, as they should be. Purdue is outstanding. But, guys, they've looked pretty good these past 2 games, even though their star player and their alpha dog, Terrence Shannon Jr., has been suspended from the team.
Yeah, they're really scoring the ball at an extremely high level and playing well as a team. They've got other guys who've stepped up: Quincy Guerrier, Marcus Damask, Justin Harmon, Coleman Hawkins, and Ty Rogers. That group of guys have really put everything together, and they've been fantastic. Now, it's tough to do on the road at Mackey because I think it's one of the toughest places to play in college basketball. But this team's also very old. So if you're looking for a team that can do it, it would be this team, because they also have kind of it's like a weird matchup with Purdue. They can stretch Edey out and make him guard out on the perimeter, which takes him away from the basket. It makes it easier for them to maybe attack the rim, and also, or they get spot up, pick and pop threes. So it's going to be a great chess match in this one. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to come down to, is Coleman Hawkins able to hit the deep three, and is Coleman Hawkins and or Zach Edey able to stay out of foul trouble. I don't want to see a game that's dictated by the fact that, Zach Edey gets 2 fouls in the first 30 seconds, or Coleman Hawkins has 2 fouls in the first minute, and then we see a disjointed game. So as long as the guys are out there, I think this is going to be a classic matchup.
By the way, social media always has fun with all these things. Purdue's last 2 losses to Northwestern this season, and of course FDU, the 16 seed in last year's opening round of the NCAA tournament. Illinois' last 2 wins over FDU last week and over Northwestern. So there you go. It's like the Lincoln Ford thing, who knows, all the different things. By the way, net ranking, Purdue number 3, no surprise there. Illinois is up to 7 after they routed Northwestern the other night. So it should be a really great ball game.
Illinois would be higher in the AP poll, except for our buddy Steve Greenberg didn't put him in the top 25 for the Sun Times. So he's been having a lot of fun with it. He's taken a little ribbing online, but it's been pretty fun.
and it's kind of a microcosm of the relationship between the University of Illinois athletic program teams and the Chicago media. It's always been a real kissy hug relationship.
Exactly. Purdue, by the way, Friday night going into this game, 7-0 at home at Mackey Arena. Of course, they went out of Maui and beat 3 consecutive top 25 teams in as many nights to win the Maui title. Also beat Arizona last month on a neutral court in Indianapolis. So they have been tested. Illinois, the big win over Florida Atlantic at the Jimmy V Classic last month in New York, lost at Tennessee. They're 2 big matchups. Lost at home to Marquette as well. So both these 2 heavyweights in the Big Ten. By the way, we should point out Purdue needs to get a win, because if they don't, they would then be 2 games behind Illinois in the loss column. Purdue right now going in 2-1 in conference play. Illinois 2-0 in conference play. Speaking of Big Ten, and maybe the best shooter in the Big Ten, by far, I don't care, male, female, Caitlin Clark. Guys, did you see the almost half-court buzzer beater that she hit to beat Michigan State in Iowa City the other night?
Yeah, it's fantastic what she's able to do. She's such a great shooter. I mean, we were talking off air about how she's kind of the female Steph Curry, and the way she shoots the ball and off the dribble, catch and shoots, deep range. Just a lot of fun to watch. She's really made, and I say this knowing that I don't take this the wrong way. She has made kind of put women's basketball on the map a little bit. I mean, we didn't talk about this as much as we are the last couple of years. And I think that's a big part of it. I mean, we've had some really good players that have come through college basketball, but nobody has really kind of captivated the way she does. And so it's been a lot of fun to watch this happen. And she's a must watch when she's on.
I know a lot of people will not like this, but she's been a one-woman equivalent of the U.S. women's soccer team in terms of what she does to get people to turn on the TV. But like the women's soccer team, she also performs when people tune in. I mean, it's you can't help but to enjoy a game when she plays, because she plays at such a high level.
She can only be the women's soccer team if she loses in the Sweet 16, Mike. Oh, wait. Is it too soon?
I was thinking earlier era.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Brandy Chastain, Mike's, Mike goes way back to like the beginning of women's soccer, that's way, way back. No, but it's you're right. By the way, Caitlin's heroics. If you haven't seen it, go Google Caitlin Clark game winner, Iowa, Michigan State. You'll see it. It is worth your while. Unbelievable. She steps back to 40 feet, nothing but net at the buzzer. Otherwise, the game would have gone to overtime. By the way, she scored 40 points in the game for Iowa, number 4 team in women's basketball. She's special to watch. Definitely enjoy her, and she'll be around not only this year, but probably next year as well. Hey, we've got more to come. We'll break down some of the bowls in the Big Ten and what was a very good holiday season for Big Ten football. Also, again, still on the way, Eric Richards from the All-American Bowl, talking about the big contest. So some of the nation's top high school players in San Antonio. That's coming up high noon Saturday. You are listening to Big Sports Radio.